Yo guys, Superior David here, and today over on Twitter we got a teasing of some upcoming nerfs by the Blizzard social media team. Looks like patch notes will be coming on Thursday. Whether the patch itself will be hitting the live server on Thursday, I think that remains to be seen. Maybe they'll do patch notes in the morning, patch in the evening, but I think it's more likely that we'll get the patch notes on Thursday with the patch hitting the live server sometime next Tuesday. But anyways, I thought today it would be fun to go over just how I think these cards will get nerfed, how I think nerfing these cards will impact the meta, and more importantly, will this do enough? But real fast, if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, make sure to like this video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it goes just an insanely long way to just helping out what I do over here. Anyways, with out of the way, let's get into these nerfs. So I'll be starting things off with the Hunter nerfs because, let's save the best for last with Theotar. But anyways, it looks like the Wild Seed package as well as the Harpoon Gun will be receiving little nerfs. I'm totally cool with this because just looking at the stats, particularly with the Wild Seeds, the Spirit Poacher and the Wild Spirits are the best performing cards in Beast Hunter right now, which again is the best deck in the game. I know a lot of people wanted to see Wild Spirits get nerfed from 3 to 4 mana, and I personally am not a big fan of this kind of change, particularly because the Spirit Poacher is also just doing very well. So I think by nerfing the underlying Wild Seed cards, you're going to bring down both these cards in terms of power, and hopefully this will open up the game more to more early game board based strategies. As to how they're going to nerf the Wild Seed cards, I think with the Bear Spirit, the most obvious nerf is just making this a 2-mana 2/4. I'll be totally shocked if they do anything else other than that. And then as for the Stag Spirit Wild Seed, I think you have a little bit more wiggle room with this guy. I think they've already nerfed the weapon, so I'd be very shocked if they nerf the weapon again. It's most likely that they'll probably hit the stats on this card by either making it a 3-mana 5/3 or a 3-mana 4/3. I think 3-mana 4/3 would probably be my preferred, but I'd understand a 3-mana 5/3. As it stands now, I feel like the Stag Spirit Wild Seed allows Hunter to put on just too much pressure in the early to mid game. You already get the 3/2 weapon, but getting this 5/4 minion on top of that, it's just really freaking good. And I think the 4 health just makes this sort of annoying to deal with, and by lowering at least the health down to 3, I think I could see Rogue being able to deal with this a lot better. The difference between 4 and 3 health is actually quite impactful, so that's why I'm leaning towards making this have 3 health. The attack, they can go a couple different ways depending on how much they want to just neuter the Stag Spirit Wild Seed over here, but these are totally reasonable nerfs and will do a lot to just open up the game to other board based decks. And then moving on to the Harpoon Gun, that's receiving a nerf, and I'll be shocked if they do anything besides just revert the buff that this card originally received. Basically, way back when they buffed the Harpoon Gun to reduce the cost of the beast by 3 rather than 2 mana, and that sort of has enabled Hunter to have these insanely powerful plays in the early to mid game where they play Harpoon Gun on 3 and then they roll into a 4 mana Polar Bear or Hydralodon, and that's just really obnoxious in a high roll that Hunter frankly just doesn't need, because Hunter just has a lot of other good things going for it. So personally, I think it just makes sense to just revert this buff and just make it so the Harpoon Gun reduces the cost of the beast by 2. I think that's pretty reasonable, and this will do a lot to sort of slow down Hunter's sort of mid-game scam potential, and just overall I think make the class just not as annoying to play against. And now I guess bringing it back to the overall changes here with Hunter, I think these are very good changes, very needed. I don't think you need to do anything else other than that to bring Hunter in line, because right now I feel like the Harpoon Gun, yeah, that was pretty obvious it was going to get nerfed. I'm very happy to see the Wild Seeds getting nerfed as well, because I feel like those were just the best cards in the deck, so it just makes a lot of sense. And now moving on to Theotar. Now I feel like it was pretty obvious that Theotar was going to get a nerf because it's just so frustrating to play against and really just pissed off a lot of players recently. And I think it's more of a matter of how exactly will Blizzard nerf Theotar here. I think you can approach it one of two ways. You can either just make him cost 5, 6, maybe even 7 mana to really slow down his effect, or you could sort of take an approach like they did with Mindrender or Lucia, where you just totally change what Theotar does. Maybe instead of swapping with a card in your opponent's hand, you just get a copy of it, which I think that would sort of undermine what Theotar tries to do by being a sort of disruption card. So I think it's more likely that we'll just see Theotar go up in mana cost to again 5, 6, maybe even 7 mana, because then he's sort of on par with other disruption like Mutinous. I 100% agree that nerfing Theotar is a good call, again just because this card's just so frustrating and feels like a lot of times games are won or lost just solely based on what your opponent hits on Theotar, which ultimately just isn't very fun. But all this being said, will all these nerfs be enough to shake up the meta? Well, I guess if you watch my last video on Maw and Disorder, I'm rather skeptical about this, and sort of just looking at the best performing cards in Standard, I feel like maybe the devs could have also nerfed cards like Prince Renethal, which is seeing play in almost 60% of decks, which is actually ridiculous. I think Prince Renethal is low-key sort of a problem in the current Hearthstone meta that I feel like the devs are sort of hoping will just go away on its own, because I don't really know how you could like nerf this card without making it just super awkward or just bad. So I think one of the real barriers to a meta shakeup will probably be this Prince Renathal over here. And then I look at Sire D, and Sire D sees play in like almost half the decks right now, and that's also quite a bit. With Sire D, I'm surprised we didn't see like a light nerf where like, hey, maybe his damage starts at 0, so we have to like sort of infuse him more from the get-go to get value out of him. But at the same time, I could see Blizzard maybe hoping that like as time goes on, Sire D will sort of get pushed out by other late game strategies. But I don't know, at the moment it seems like he does like a lot of things that decks really enjoy. He gives you like a win condition, especially for board-based decks, especially decks with like a lot of little tokeny minions. But then on top of that, the lifesteal actually gives a lot of decks a way to stabilize that necessarily wouldn't have a way to sort of stabilize in the late game. So I think that could actually just be a problem long term. But again, maybe Sire D will solve himself, and hey, maybe Prince Renathal will solve himself too. But one thing I'm actually very surprised not to see in the actual Twitter post here is any mention of buffs. Maybe there will be buffs and they're just not teasing them here, but like you look at the stats and like freaking Warrior is just Warrior's just hardcore struggling right now. Like Warrior has just been underperforming for the longest of times, and I don't even know, like even if they revert like all the nerfs that Warrior previously received, I feel like Warrior is just so out of step in terms of power level compared to the rest of the classes in the game. It needs like significant support to really see play. And again, maybe there will be buffs and they just didn't tease them, but man, my heart goes out to all the Warrior mains out there. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think about these upcoming balance changes that have been teased. Do you think that these will go far enough, or were you hoping that Blizzard would have nerfed cards like Sire D or Renathal, or hey, maybe something else I didn't even mention here? Personally, it feels like these cards will definitely decrease the amount of hunters you see on ladder, but I don't really see like any new strategies being pushed. This is sort of a sentiment I echoed in my last video where I really talked about how Maw and Disorder sort of just was really like a failure of a mini set. If you haven't checked that one out, definitely check out that video. Really superior stuff if I do say so myself. But anyways, would love to hear your thoughts on everything down in the comments. And of course, if you made it this far, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because again, it goes a long way in supporting like just all the things I do over here. And in the meantime, stay superior, and I'll catch y'all next one. Later. Get that